chakras are really energy centers. Dr. Joe Dispenza actually dives and develops a mechanism for people to meditate and activate these energy centers in a specific way. And I've used his practice of meditation to activate these centers, and I know very well that they're very powerful. So if you want to learn about how to activate these energy centers through meditation, he is by far one of the best sources to do that. I speak from personal experience about that. And it is through his work and through the practice of his mechanism through meditation to activate these energy centers that I learned about the implication of the quantum field and how these energy centers have a multidimensionality to them. And they're actually, energetic vortices that are in constant communication with the quantum field. We are both energetic and physical in form. And so as a result, so are our energy centers. They have both a material form and immaterial aspects to them that relate to different dimensions of our quantum structure, which is embedded into the quantum field. All right, so the first thing I want to start with is to build on this notion that our energy centers, or also known as chakra, communicate or engage with the quantum field. So our biofield, or also as we know it as our aura, is made up of different dimensions, different layers, and it's really part of our entire quantum structure. And we are embedded within the quantum field. Our energy centers really allow us to have a built-in system to access the quantum field by accessing these different dimensionalities. And every single one of our chakras is correlated to a different dimension in our quantum structure that we can access and tap into so that we can have access to the quantum field through that dimension. These energy centers are clusters or plexes of neurons, and so they store electrical energy. And we have an entire electrical circuitry running through our body. So we are electric beings. We're electromagnetic beings, all right? And so these energy centers actually function as electrical capacitors, which store energy. And these are energy doors. These are vibratory thresholds, and they allow us to experience life, and also they give us the energy that we need to conduct the right electrical circuitry through our body. So we are conductors of our own body. These centers can also be measured, and they actually create our biofield measurement as well. And together as a unit, they create the measurement of our biofield. So there's a direct interaction between the level of charge flowing within our biological field and the level of charge that's able to emanate from these major centers. Are you listening? This is probably one of the reasons it's probably a good idea to tune your electrical capacitors and to recharge your electrical capacitors. And also, it's really interesting because these centers are rotating and orienting in a specific direction. They're vortexing as a capacitor. And not only are they storing energy, but they're providing energy for the rest of the body, okay? It's exchanged and it's interpreted between different parts of our system. And actually, if you want to learn more about this, there's a really, really incredible book called Healing is Voltage, all right? If you really want to know how important this is for your system, for your health, for your well-being, read the book called Healing is Voltage. All right, now I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects when it comes to the energy centers. I have become obsessed with this, okay, because it's one of the most phenomenal experiences one can have if you're into this kind of energy work. So when I started getting into the chakras or the energy centers, which I really call energy work in and of itself, when I started getting into this kind of energy work, I realized how important this type of work is for ourselves as not only physical beings, for our well-being and our health and our physicality, but also as spiritual beings, all right? So I started to learn about these energy centers and how I can activate them. So you see, I learned all this from Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'll say it again, because he gave me the foundation to understanding what it means to work with these energy centers. So I'll tell you in brief the kind of work that I've done with these energy centers. So I've learned that these energy centers can be expanded through our consciousness and our awareness. Where we place our attention is where we place our energy. And this actually goes back to the observer effect, to the quantum law of mechanics, the observer effect. So where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And through your consciousness and awareness, you can expand these energy centers. Now, it's not enough to just be placing your attention there. There's a whole method to that. You have to do it in a specific way, and there's a mechanism to that, and I'm not going to get into it because it's a lot. However, when I started getting into this kind of energy work, I realized that there is something called the Kundalini awakening. And what this really means is, traditionally, these energy centers or these chakras have been known to be fully activated when you experience the Kundalini awakening. What this really means is that there is a life force that moves from the first energy center at the bottom of the spine all the way to the seventh center at the top of the head. And when this life force moves or shoots from the bottom of your spine all the way to the top of your head and shoots out of your top of your head, then you've actually experienced what is called the Kundalini energy. What happens in the process of the Kundalini awakening is that the life force from the bottom of the spine travels in a serpentine fashion through the spine, up every energy center, through each one of the energy centers. And as the rising energy moves, it catalyzes altered states of consciousness, unlocking access to the higher dimensions I talked about previously, that each energy center is connected to. So basically, the mechanism that can be used essentially is meant to facilitate the movement of the life force from the bottom of the spine through each one of the energy centers. So the energy must travel through each one of the energy centers in an upward fashion until it reaches the top of the head, the seventh chakra, and eventually also shoots through the eighth chakra. So the Kundalini energy is really the flow of energy through each of the energy centers, one from the other, going up all the way to the top of the head, flowing through the spinal cord. And most often, this involves a certain breathing mechanism, and that there are multiple ways to do breath work to facilitate this. But really, it's absolutely necessary to do this, I think, in most cases, to use breath work to facilitate the flow of that energy up. Now, in some cases, for some people, the life force is not going to travel up the spine so easily from the bottom of the spine to the seventh chakra at the top of the head. And the reason for this is because most of us, in most cases, we all have blockages of energy. We have stuck energy in some places along our energetic centers that doesn't allow the life force to travel so easily through our body. This is also why it's really necessary to make it a lifestyle. Because once you have a Kundalini experience, the next ones are much easier to do. However, this is a work in progress all the time, because what happens is when the Kundalini energy or the life force energy is traveling through the body from one chakra or one energy center to the next, when it encounters an energetic blockage through the pathway of the chakras, this energy will attempt to shift something in that place, and it will stimulate some kind of new experience. It will actually facilitate your evolution as a person, as a spiritual being in this human experience, so that you will be forced to take a look at that blockage, at that part of yourself that needs the transformation in order to release that energy that's being stored there or that's blocking the pathway of the Kundalini energy. Or in some places, for whatever reason that there's resistance, you're going to be forced to face that and transform it in order to have a fuller experience of life. And so if you think about it, from what I've just said, this kind of energy work with the energy centers not only gives you more life in terms of your physicality, but it actually enlarges your experience of life, because you're going to be facilitated or prompted to transform whatever blockages or resistance you might have in your body, in your energetics. And it is only after you've transformed whatever energy blockage or resistance you have in that energetic pathway that the Kundalini energy actually rises from the bottom of the spine to the top of the head. And this is an ongoing practice. This is something that you work within the meditation and outside of the meditation. So personal transformation is not just what happens in the meditation, but what you are doing outside of the meditation as you encounter these new experiences that are being facilitated by your energetic self in your physical reality.